This season, Fort Worth Opera is going to perform Donizetti's masterpiece, Don Pasquale. Don Pasquale was the 72nd opera by Donizetti. He had figured out what he was doing by this time. The opera is basically the commedia dell'arte form turned into an opera, and perhaps it was the final commedia dell'arte. This began in Italy in the 16th century, around 1570, and had certain stock characters. The clever young woman, the lover who was somewhat melancholy and pertinent to Don Pasquale, the old man who is very wealthy but gets tricked. Now, in the 16th century, this was the character everybody loved the most because most Italians were desperately poor, and so Don Pasquale, the rich old man who tries to disinherit his nephew and keep his nephew from marrying the woman that he loves, falls into this stereotype. All right, so Don Pasquale begins with a buoyant overture, and even in the overture, Donizetti gives us clues to key dramatic events that are going to happen later on in the opera. We hear this cello song. Oh, remember that. And then a little bit later, Don Pasquale's nephew, Ernesto, is in love with Norina. But Don Pasquale wants Ernesto to marry a woman that he's arranged to marry him, and is very frustrated that Ernesto is not capitulating to his wishes. So Ernesto and Norina, the woman that he loves, and their friend, Dr. Malatesta, who's also a friend of Don Pasquale, decide they're going to play a trick on Don Pasquale. Norina comes to Don Pasquale as a blushing young woman straight out of a convent. Malatesta says, "Oh, it's my sister, Sophronia." Now, in real life, Norina, a widow, knows all about marriage, all about men, and she tells the audience this in a song that we already heard in the overture. It goes something like this. You can hear her flirtatious and witty nature even in that little phrase. But Don Pasquale is completely taken in and believes that he is going to be able to marry this lovely and innocent woman straight out of a convent. Well, the second that they get married, the innocent young woman becomes a belligerent shrew, and pretty soon Don Pasquale wishes that he had never married. So, spoiler, I'm going to tell you how the plot ends. Don Pasquale finally decides that he would be so grateful to get rid of the wife he's had for a couple days that he tells Ernesto and Norina and Malatesta that he will gladly let Ernesto and Norina marry if he can only be rid of Sophronia. All these musical proceedings are put across by Donizetti in a very light-hearted, beautiful way, with bel canto singing, florid singing. It's really the end of an era. Rossini, Bellini, and Donizetti, the three composers that we consider the great bel canto composers. Rossini, of course, lived another 25 years, but wasn't writing operas. So Don Pasquale is the last word in Commedia dell'arte, and really the last word in great bel canto opera.